You should have saw the way the Bears were running the jet sweep with Velus Jones today, Wilbon.
I need to see something. I need to see something other than not catching kickoffs or punt returns or just returns. I need to see something because I know that back, the kid, and I have a special eye out for him because that's local for me. The kid from Howard, free agent rookie, he looked pretty good. I know Velus Jones had a touchdown in that game, but I'm more obsessed today with whether or not. So, do the Bears have any interest in Matthew Judon? What's the word there?
We don't know. Matthew Judon, teams are still calling the Patriots about him. Hassan Reddick asks to be traded, but the Jets have responded and said, we're not trading you.
No, we're not trading you.
So I don't know. It's an interesting thought, Mike. And it's something that I believe, I don't have any inside knowledge. I believe that Ryan Poles will pick up the phone and at least ask a question. Ask a couple questions. Why not?
Yeah.
Do your due diligence.
Marcus Spears was just saying on air on the NFL Daily Show that he thought that was the place that he could have an impact. Judon, and Judon will be 32 years old day after tomorrow, so he's 32. You're not talking about some long-term solution, but you're also talking about a guy whose base salary this year is $6 million. I mean, and I realize we're talking NFL salaries, not NBA, but when you can rush the passer with the consistency that Judon has, can you get 2 seasons out of him? And then what is he worth? And clearly the Patriots can't be expecting a haul at this stage, but the Bears figure the need still. You can't have too much pass rushing.
I'm with you,
and you
Mike.
certainly can't have it with a guy who's proven it over 10 years he can do that.
I'm with you 100%. And maybe Ryan Poles looks at his team and says, hey, I don't think they're a rental player away from winning a world championship, but maybe Ryan looks at the team and the roster and says, we're a little further along than maybe I anticipated. So I've got $21 million of cap space. I've got a full complement of my 2025 picks. Maybe this is something we should do right now. And if he did, oh my goodness, there's a lot of buzz with this team. That would amp it up even higher.
It really would, especially the way the defense is played. I realize that the starters have only played a couple of series. But the backups, I thought, and you guys are closer to this in time. You get the firsthand knowledge of looking at these guys and seeing what you think it is they can contribute. Look, you're going to have injuries. You're going to have underperformers. Backup play in the NFL is critical. And so, what we're seeing defensively so far in 2 weeks, the Bears are pretty darn good with their 2s and 3s on the field, do they not?
Yes, they've got a much more talented and deep team than they did 2 years ago. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that speaks directly to the job that Poles and his staff have done, and also some development. I mean, we should not forget about that. But yeah, once you hear that Judon's available, maybe, and that the Patriots may be listening to offers, you're talking about teams that might pick up the phone and be helped for a couple of seasons, you think, the Bears could certainly use some more pass rushing. What about Judon?
The only question I would, if they got Matthew Judon to help as the secondary pass rusher, I'd be for that. He only played 4 games last year. The year before that, he had 15.5 sacks, 15.5 in 2022. The only question I ask you, both of you guys, is his best trades that he's made so far are trades for guys who are going to be a part of the core for years to come. DJ Moore, Montez Sweat, guys who are still just entering the prime of their careers, and that you can make an impact currently and that you can grow with and be a part of this thing for more. Is a player more like that fits that bill more likely to become available at the trade deadline as opposed to trading for a 32-year-old at the beginning of the season?
Oh, I don't want a one-dimensional GM. You don't tell me if you're going to, I don't want to, your GM can't be a one-dimensional player. Yes, he's done it. That's been what the Bears are doing because they're building. But at some point, as Tommy said, if you look and see that your team is a little further along than maybe you even thought. And maybe it's not time for that. I'm not saying that they have to trade for Judon, but I don't want to think that any GM who's going to be the architect of a championship contender, a serious one, is going to only be able to make one kind of trade. You better be able to, we didn't we see that already, Sylvia, if we go back and cross sports and look at the Cubs, as good as Jim Hendry was, and he was damn good, building a team. What is it that he couldn't do?
I'm trying to think. Were you going to say bullpen? Is that a closer?
Yeah. He was terrific. He's a terrific GM. And I'm not going to go back on it and say, well, okay, I know there was a hole in that resume, but he couldn't do it. And he'd be the first one to tell you if he was talking to us that he failed at that. But the inability to do that, you got to be able to sort of master all aspects of putting together a team. And then here's the deal. Pass rushing is not optional.
Right.
And that's not one of those things you can come into a season and think you're going to just do it by patchwork. You got to have some proven pass rushers. I hear you on the two things, Sylvie, that you have to, if there are yellow flags or red flags, they would be the age of getting turns 32 this week, if my math is correct.
Right.
And the injury, last year only played in 4 games. But, that's the gamble. And how much would he cost? And he certainly didn't cost that much under your cap. I mean, even if you're looking at a modest extension that is, incentive laden, you're not talking about paying a guy top dollar to do something that is really necessary for your team.
His birthday, by the way, is in 2 days, like you just
Thursday,
said.
Right?
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah. What's funny too is he was a 5th round pick, much like Austin Booker. Like you could find guys who sacked the quarterback 15 times in a year who were drafted in the 5th round in the NFL draft.
Richard Dent.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We've discussed that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you can. And so, but the thing is, how much do you need to have him now? And look, the staff, the Bear coaching staff, they know if they're seeing somebody in the developmental stage who's going to wind up getting them, who's going to wind up going from 2.5 sacks to 7. You don't have to. It doesn't have to. You don't have to get it all the same way. But this is intriguing to me. It is.
Right. This could be like a Keenan Allen type deal, except for the defense.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Wilbon, a topic that's growing. We don't know what, in fact, is the truth because Matt Eberflus has not spoken since the Buffalo game, and will not speak, believe it or not, until Thursday. So we don't know if the Bears are going to play the starters in this game. And the reason why this may not happen where the starters play is because word out of the Cincinnati practices is Zach Taylor is leaning towards not playing the starters. They will practice head-to-head, Cincinnati and the Bears, here at Hallis Hall on Thursday. The Bears being a young team, a new offense being together, a rookie quarterback, would you be upset if the Bears decide not to play their starters in this game?
Upset, no. Do I think they should? Probably. One thing, let me credit Tom Waddle for something. As you guys know, for years, I railed against the whole valuing these practice sessions. And listening to Tommy over the years, I've come to change my mind about the value of those practice sessions and what people get out of them and what coaches get on film. Look, so I was just listening to Aaron Rodgers talk about Aaron Rodgers, who came into the league at a time where there were 4 preseason games and they were played in the traditional way, where the starters really, sort of increased from 1 to 2. They played a lot in the 3rd game and didn't play much, if at all, in the 4th game. It's changed. And Aaron Rodgers said today, preseason doesn't mean anything like it used to. Nothing. Now, he did say he thinks it has become the vehicle for which younger players can prove to a staff and a team what it is they're ready to do. But the preseason is not what it was. And I got to, I think it has to be judged differently. And if they're going to get more out of these practice sessions than the games, because they're not really games, if they're going to get more out of those in 2 series, then okay, no, I'm not going to get upset.
I would say
Tom's in better position to speak about that.
This is what I would say, Mike. Not all teams are alike. So if Zach Taylor decides that his team that's been in a Super Bowl in the last, 3 years, with a quarterback in Joe Burrow, who, while he hasn't been able to stay healthy, has proven to be conservatively a top 5 quarterback. Some would argue he's the second best quarterback in the league when he's healthy. They're in a different situation than our team. Right. Our team is starting a rookie quarterback who has come from a system where he has not played under center, hasn't been in a huddle, hasn't called plays. So we may get to the point in the second year of Caleb Williams or the third year of Caleb Williams where you start to treat the Bears and Caleb Williams like Aaron Rodgers and others. But until we get there, I think Coach Eberflus has to treat his team differently than Zach Taylor's treating his team that comes to town.
Agreed. But the question I'm getting at, Tommy, is what you taught me literally over the last couple of years in the preseason talking about this. Are those practices as valuable or more so in that way to address your very concerns than the game, which, let's face it, those games are put on to satisfy the network partners because they have to. And really, the games aren't even on those. They're on the local affiliates or NFL Network. But, I mean, those games are put on to satisfy television. I
think these practices are significant. I mean, it's just common sense. They're significantly more valuable because you can dictate the down and distance. You can dictate the situation. You can play situational football. The downside is you get some guys out there that want to fight, and then guys are going to get hurt, and then sometimes it gets muddled and you don't get anything accomplished. But I liked Meller. Who was it? One of the coaches said today, here's the deal. If starters get into a fight, you're going to play every minute of the preseason game. If backups get into a fight, you're not going to play in the preseason game.
It was Gerard Mayo of the Patriots.
Gerard Mayo of the Patriots said it. So, because they just got off of a stretch, I think, with the Eagles, of practicing with the Eagles. It's the one downside, Mike, of it, that guys have a tendency, you're not going to start a fight in a preseason game, but you get these mixed practices, and I think the Bears had some issues with the Colts last year. You just got to set the ground rules, and you got to make sure that everyone's going to follow. But if you're not out there and in a massive brawl, I don't think there's any doubt you get more out of these than you do in games.
And that's why my answer is probably I'm not going to get upset. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see him take just as many snaps as he did. How many snaps did Caleb take Saturday?
18.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's enough. We saw some good things. Two of those were drops, by the way. The 4 out of 7 is really 6 out of 7 with the throwaway. But, I'd like to see 15 snaps out of him again this week. But if you're telling me that these practices can be more productive than the games, just because, again, there's put on to satisfy television, I'm going to say, okay, I want to do the thing that is going to yield the best results for a rookie who's got a lot to figure out. Like, you just taking snaps under center and not playing shotgun every snap.
Wilbon,
he's got to do that.
I needed a cold shower after Caleb's 18 snaps.
I'm sure. Listen, I've watched every important snapping. I watched every snap of both Bears games, the abbreviated Hall of Fame game and the other day. And again, I think I texted you guys. I was really impressed with the backups and the defensive backups. And I still want to know what's going to happen to Johnson, the 6'6" practice squad receiver. Tom, I just thought of this. How many times did you play on practice squad?
My first 2 years, I was on the practice squad for the majority of the seasons. And then I actually got cut going into my third season, but got brought back, and I stayed on the big.
I remember that. I remember that.
But there was a rule back then where you could only spend a certain amount of time, and you could only be a rookie or maybe a first-year player. Now the rules are completely changed, and you could stay on that for an extended period of time.
And I'm interested in the application of that and how a team that's building makes those decisions. Because let's face it, the really successful teams do those subtle things well. Not everything is a wow. And yes, we're working in wow territory now because we want to see Caleb Williams and how he reacts. Did Rome Odunze have a target in that game out of those?
Yes, twice.
Yeah, one maybe. Oh, twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one in the back of the end zone, and then the one that was almost
the end zone, right? Which is kind of a throwaway.
Yeah. And then the one that was almost the pick, but I guess I don't know if that goes as a legit target since it was
the play was erased because of penalty.
It was erased, yeah. So that probably one target. But anyway, we're in the wild territory where we want to see big things. A coaching staff has got so much more to prove than that. And I realize the Bears are under a special set of expectations. You know, I just looked at something that had the Bears, it might have been ESPN bet that I've got on one of these screens here in my house, that the Bears are like the 6th best odds to win the NFC. Did I see that? Now, Detroit was 2nd and the Packers were 4th. And then, you know, obviously San Francisco was up there. And you're like, wait a minute, what am I seeing this correctly? And so, you know, do these things seep into a locker room? Some locker rooms, it depends on the player too. Do expectations sort of alter what actually happens on the field? And it shouldn't, but you got to look at this realistically and talk about the pressures operating on players who are human.
Yeah.
And so you look, when I saw that today, I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And yet, Sylvie, like you, I'm watching that game and I'm wondering about, like, so do we keep the number 47 keeps popping up offensively and defensively? Do we keep the tight end 47 who had been with Buffalo, who's played well in 2 games?
Tommy Sweeney.
And what is Sweeney? 27 years old, maybe? I mean, maybe he's still in that sweet spot. Maybe not even that old. Maybe like 25. And what about the kid who makes the pick 6 wearing 47 defensively?
I love that Wilbon's doing these roster crunches for number 50, 51, 52, and 53.
These are rich people problems in terms of NFL teams. When your team is better, these are we have yearned for these types of problems.
Yeah. Let me ask,
are they there yet?
They're getting there. They're not there yet, but they're getting there.
Okay. Okay. That's why I'm wondering, like, am I, I've covered some teams where those decisions were painstaking, where coaches stayed up all night and almost got in fistfights about who they were going to keep in those spots. And I'm like, okay, I'm going crazy here. The Bears can't possibly be in that position, but getting there is actually good news to have to make those tough calls.
Let me ask you, as we change subjects, Michael, we've done a lot of discussing of the Olympics with you, and a lot of it has been in the context of there are so many great sports going on in the Olympics that you would never think you'd love and athletes you'd fall in love with. And a lot of it is off the main street of team sports. But yet here we came to the intersection of one of the biggest international stars in all of sports, and Steph Curry, LeBron James at the Olympics, and it all came together. You're a big Olympic guy, and you're as big of an NBA guy as there is. You know Steph firsthand. For you watching that game and that finish, where did that rank for you as far as watching an event at home?
Yeah, I've been watching an event at home. It's way up there for me. Look, I've been courtside. Like, I was lucky to be courtside for every conference championship game and every championship game Michael Jordan played. I've been at courtside for every NBA championship game and most of the conference championship games Steph Curry has played. Maybe all of them, actually, if I have to look back. So it might be identical. This might be the greatest thing Steph Curry's done. And when he was asked that, right, I was glad Mike Tirico asked that question. Somebody that Steph on the other end of that question knows has some, some sense of history, and I was glad that Mike asked it and asked it the way he did. And Steph took that question seriously and he really pondered it. And you could tell, I think he might have a different answer. I'd really love to talk to Steph like this week, as opposed to a few days ago, to see what he thinks of it as he has time to sleep on it, as he has time to field the reaction, and sort of gain. Steph has his own perspective. He's seen this stuff. He grew in it. He's a second generation basketball lifer because his dad played. It's so far up there for me. Like, is it higher than an NBA championship? That's what we're going to get to, right? Well, I mean, how about equal? I mean, how about equal too? Because of the way the game ended. Look, if Steph Curry doesn't play that way in those two games against Serbia and against France, the United States loses one of those games. And then it's a whole different discussion. And by the way, there's only one acceptable outcome for the United States of America when it comes to basketball.
Right. Gold. Yes.
Gold. That's it. Anything else is a massive disappointment that will bring on unbelievable and undeniable criticism. And they know that. That's the pressure on the U.S. team. That's the pressure. And for LeBron and KD and Steph Curry, they're three of the all-time players. And you can make the case now. I can easily make the case that two of those guys are in the top 10 of all time. Because Steph Curry is the greatest shooter ever. And LeBron James certainly is going to be in your top 10. Somewhere in your top 10. You can put him 2, 5, 7, whatever. He's going in your top 10. So for those guys to have to be pushed to that, I kept saying I thought that the United States would win but be pushed. Well, I feel pretty good about that assessment. They got pushed twice. And Steph Curry delivered them. The shots he hit, the last one's over Wembanyama.
It was crazy.
It's insane. So going back to your initial question, Silvy, I think, and I'll see Steph soon. I think that this is right there with anything he's done. Because if you don't win an NBA championship, and they didn't once, look, they had a disappointment where they were the team that thought they were going to be the greatest team and supplant the 96 Bulls, and they couldn't because they lost a 3-1 lead in the finals. The only team to lose a 3-1 lead in the finals. Okay, but nobody's killing them for that. But if they lose the Olympics because of whatever, people want to kill them for that. Steph Curry avoided that directly with a stretch of 4 minutes that is unparalleled.
I'll never forget watching that game. Like it's one of those in front of my TVs that I will always remember where I was, the feeling, the goosebump moments, me yelling, like my feeling about, even though as hot as he was, that there's no chance he's taking that last three. And then after he took it, that there's no chance that's going in. And then it went in, and I just couldn't believe it. And it was one of the greatest clutch performances I've ever watched in my life. And like you,
it's one of the great sequences. It's the sequence of it. Okay, first of all, if the previous game and Steph hits the huge shots there, if Serbia hits one of those 5 open threes, we'll have another discussion because they ain't even playing France in the next game. But they survived, and LeBron and KD were as responsible as Steph for that, although Steph hit a couple of insane shots in that game. But Sylvia, I'm like you. I mean, it's to hit 2 of those shots is an all-time performance. To hit 3 of them is otherworldly. To hit a 4th one over Wembanyama at 7'3" snatched out is just not. That's a once in a lifetime performance.
That's why we watch. Yeah.
Well,
Michael, great stuff. I can't wait to hear your texts this weekend and to read them. I love getting them, especially during Bears season.
I gotta watch tonight again. I guess I'm forced.
Yes.
I guess I'm forced to watch.
Oh yeah, Hard Knocks
installation.
Sure,
Hard Knocks. That's tonight. So
highest rated premiere for Hard Knocks in 5 years was episode 1 for the Bears season.
Well, the Bears keep doing this. So this week is at home at Soldier Field against who for the preseason game?
Bengals.
Yeah.
That's right, the Bengals.
Yeah.
The Bengals and Zach Taylor, and we may not play people.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting, and I wonder. The NFL can never get involved in preseason. You just can't do it. You can't afford to do it. And by the way, we didn't talk about this. Who do the Bulls open with, or do we know that yet?
We gotta go.
I have no idea.
See you later, Michael.
Thank you, Mike.
Appropriate reaction.
It was,
guys.
Yes. We'll talk. Thanks, buddy.
Bulls open?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
That was classic. All right, Michael.